much about it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of study about homeostasis. Is there? I mean, you went to basically
Yeah.
med school, so
Yeah.
you're considered really a doctor.
We do a lot of research, but when it comes down to it, usually in the research, you're looking more for specific approaches and how a specific approach helps someone, as opposed to, like you said, moderating everything and keeping
Right.
it simple. It seems simple, but it's not.
Oh, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh, we're live?
Yeah.
The ticker's not moving. So we can't see that. We're just sitting here having an amazing conversation. I am with my good friend Danny Schroeder, who's a physical therapist and the director over at ATI Physical Therapy. Yeah. And always good to visit with you,
Thank
Danny.
you.
Love learning and just the insight that you have. You spent a lot of years in school studying the body.
I did, absolutely. And thanks for having me back, too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you are with us on Healthy You this morning. We come at you live every Wednesday morning. I'm Kim Martin, host of Healthy You. And our goal really is to share information, real, true information that's going to help you live healthier and make it a little bit easier for you to make good choices in living a healthy lifestyle. It's not all about what we're eating. It's not all about the exercise, because it really is mind, body, spirit. There's so much to living a healthy lifestyle. And Danny, you and I were talking, maybe you guys saw it if we were already live, but before we thought we were live, we were really talking about homeostasis.
Right.
And I know people who follow me hear me talk about that a lot, because I think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And how our body responds and moderation. And that's kind of the topic today. What's the big deal about moderation?
You got it.
So what are as a physical therapist and all of your education in the study of the body and health and wellness, what do you say about that?
As a physical therapist, I see a lot of patients. Obviously, they're physically impaired. But when we start talking, we start getting down to who they are, not just physically who they are, but kind of emotionally, psychologically, some of their goals that they have even. We start to figure out that it takes a lot more. So we talk about homeostasis. A person comes in and they say, hey, my leg hurts. What do I do for my leg? Sometimes it's more about, hey, what have you been doing before? Did you have a routine? And so that's the first thing I ask a patient is, what were you doing before I saw you? More often than not, it's not that they haven't been doing something that caused an injury. It's either they're doing it wrong, or they're doing too little of something, too much of something, or they're not, setting a schedule, doing something consistently.
And they're going extreme. They're going all in.
That's right.
So I tell people all the time, when you go from being sedentary, and we were talking about our My First 5K. So we have a group of people who have not really been, a lot of them haven't been exercising a lot, and they've decided they're going to do a 5K, and it's literally from couch to 5K. Yeah. And so I tell them in that very first group meeting, I say, you're going to have some pain.
That's right.
Your body is going to respond because your body gets acclimated to what it's accustomed to.
It really does. It really does. I worked with a company previously, and we focused, a lot on weight.
Yeah.
And so when we saw a lot of patients who are exercising, someone who's obese isn't going for as long with their exercise or as intensely with their exercise. So sometimes we actually had to tell these clients, these patients, hey, the importance is that you're doing it.
Right.
It's not that you're going to do the same as a marathoner. You're not going to go out and run 26.2 miles on your first day. You're not going to run a 5K on your first day.
Right.
But a lot of these people, we tell them, hey, if you're watching at home and you're thinking, hey, how do I get out and I move, outside? Maybe you're not confident, you're not comfortable. Walk for 5 minutes. That's your first day.
Right.
Like you probably had your group as well.
We walked and we ran literally for 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Because you can't believe how many people say, oh, I can't run. I tried and I couldn't move the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it killed my knees. Well, of course it did. If you went out and you tried to run for 10 minutes and you hadn't been running at all before, it's going to kill your knees. It's going to, your IT band. And you're not going to be able to walk the next day. I utilize the example of painting a wall. Mm-hmm. Have you ever painted a wall and then the next day you can't lift your arms over your head? That's your body responding.
That's exactly right.
Saying, what did we just do? This is not in my comfort zone.
I can't pretend like I'm somebody who's always been in top physical shape. I was an athlete previously, but of course, after that ended, it was, oh man, let's just relax for a little bit. And I was kind of in that same boat. When I first went out and started exercising a little bit more intensely, it was the bike for me. So I know you've got your bike program as well that just started up.
Last night, actually.
And so I remember the first time I got off my bicycle outside riding on the trail, maybe it was about 5 to 10 miles, and my back, my hips, my legs. Within 2, 3, 4 weeks, all of a sudden I'm going twice as far, I'm going twice as fast.
Right.
And the important thing that we don't talk about a lot, confidence. And that's what it comes down to. When you're doing a routine, whether it's your diet, whether it's your exercise, anything really, when you have more confidence that's built as we go along, it improves everything. If you're starting something out and you're lacking confidence and you just push yourself and you're constantly trying to be outside of your comfort zone, it's not going to go very well. Do something initially, like we said, walking a little bit,
Right.
jogging a little bit. Same thing with the bike, going shorter distances. Build up a little bit of confidence.
Yeah,
That's what's
last
important
night
to
we
keep
started
you going.
with 5 miles.
Exactly.
5 miles,
Exactly.
and I think we live in a world of extreme.
We sure do.
And we were talking about that too, Danny. It's like we want to lose weight and we want to lose it now. And that's why I think fad diets are so popular, because there's so many programs out there, whether it be through medical assistance where they give you injections and medications that your body really doesn't know what to do with the side effects, so we don't even know what the long-term side effects of those things are. Or whether it's extreme calorie restriction or extreme eating one type of food over another, whatever those fad diets may be, people lose weight really quickly, right? And so they think they work.
Right.
I always tell when someone says, well, what do you think about this diet? This is what I say. Go find me someone who's been doing it for 5 or more years, and then we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
Find me someone that I can interview, bring on this show,
That's right.
who's been doing a fad diet for longer than 5 years,
Yeah.
that has lost all their weight and kept it off.
You're right. You hear about a lot of diets, a lot of programs. What it comes down to is just moderation. I mean, the bottom line is moderation is key. So, risk of injury really goes up if you're not in moderation of your exercise. So if you're doing too little activity, you're doing too much activity for your own comfort zone,
Right.
going to cause that. Burnout, another thing is
yeah.
big. I see it constantly in people, whether, again, it's their weight, whether it's their job, whether it's their anything. The burnout is constant. So, again, keeping things moderate. And then just lacking efficiency. If somebody is trying a new program, like you said, let's go and do a diet where we limit to under 1,000 calories.
Right.
You're not going to be efficient in doing that. You're going to constantly be trying to cut corners. You're going to constantly be second-guessing yourself. Do something that you have a little bit of confidence in, something where you can just routinely moderate, you feel good about it. You don't have to accomplish things in one day, in 1 week. The real problem that a lot of us have is moderating week after week after week after week. I mean, there's a reason why we don't see people losing often 100 pounds in a year. Often it's it's taken people 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get to the weight and the
Especially
shape
if
that they want to.
I've been coaching my sweet sister Shando. Hey Shando, if you watch this show, and she's nearing 100 pounds that she's lost,
Fantastic.
and it's been a 3-year journey.
Yes.
And she it's true, Shando. She'll say to me, "Oh, but what if I try that?" Or my doctor
right.
wants me to do this, and I'm like, I won't coach you anymore. That's how I threaten her.
That's
I'm
right.
like,
That's
if you
right.
go and do a fad diet, then I won't be your coach anymore.
I think, yeah.
Because it doesn't change you mentally.
Right.
And if you're not mentally healthy, then you're not healthy.
Yeah. It's never about cutting corners. It's just never about that. That's never what you want to do when it comes to your body, when it comes to your life. You want to do things the right way.
Right.
Anytime you're doing things the wrong way, it's going to catch up to you.
Well, it's going to make you feel like poop, because in your mind, this is not the right thing I should be.
Yeah.
When
Somewhere
you're
in the
not-
back of your brain, you're
in
thinking,
the back of your brain, you're thinking, I am never going to be able to go the rest of my life and never, ever eat a piece of candy or
Right.
something.
Exactly.
Or you think I really shouldn't be taking this medication to help me lose weight. This can't be good.
That's right. Well, what happens too is if you have 1 or 2 times where you slip and you cheat a little bit and you cut corners, you know how it works. Quickly, 3, 4, 5 times the whole week, the whole month, all of a sudden you're completely off track.
And you're gaining the weight back.
That's right.
And you feel bad about
Well,
yourself.
right,
so
exactly,
don't, right?
exactly, and that's the most important thing. So when you talk about homeostasis, the
Yes.
word from Greek, steady,
Greek word, I didn't
and
know.
yes, steady and same. That's basically the word homeostasis and what that
Really?
means. So you're staying steady. It's a steady state. So when we talk about that, if we're talking about the actual definition of what homeostasis
Right.
is, it's a stable state between varying elements, especially as maintained by physiological processes. So what we're talking about is just a tendency toward the same, just a tendency to stay
It's
the
your
same.
body's desire to be a constant steady.
And so basically,
That's how I describe it
yeah,
to people. It's
and
your
that's
body's
exactly
desire.
right.
That's what your body desires. It starts to, whatever you do. So let's take a person who lays on the couch all the time.
Exactly.
So you're a person and you've been laying on the couch all the time and you lay on the couch all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your body, the homeostasis has figured out how to keep a constant steady based on your activity of laying on the couch every day.
Absolutely.
So it has found a way to work as efficient as it possibly can based on those conditions.
That's right.
So then when you're watching, Dr. Oz, and he tells you there's this magic
magic powder, magic pill.
powder you can take, and all of a sudden you're like motivated, because he's pretty motivational too, right? So now you're motivated to jump off the couch and run to the store and get this powder, and you're like, I'm gonna walk, and you go out and you walk, or you go join a gym that day and you buy this powder, and then 2 days later you're like, oh, I can't move,
That's right.
I'm hurt myself, and they come see you.
All the time, all the time.
That's the kind of
That's
the story,
right. They've tried their protein, they've tried their creatine, they've tried their diet fad, they've tried it all. And they eventually say, what do I do? And I have to tell them, just do it the right way. That's all it comes down to. It's not complicated. It's really not. But sometimes you just need a little supervision if you're the kind of person who just can't get over the hump. So a lot of times when we talk about that, it's about equilibrium is really what we talk about.
Okay.
So the body is always trying to get you back to equilibrium, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally. When we talk about homeostasis, really the concept of that, it's based a long time ago around body temperature,
that's
blood
a perfect
pressure,
example.
and water too.
Yeah.
So a couple different areas, but it's really simple. Your body's trying to keep you moderate, essentially.
98.6.
That's right.
So your homeostasis helps to maintain your body temperature, and your body temperature is you work most efficient at 98.6.
Absolutely.
That's why we stay 98.6. Pretty amazing when you start studying the human body. It's the anatomy. It is absolutely phenomenal to me.
It is.
And proof in my mind that we were created, and not just happen chance.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that constant steady. So when you do something extreme, now your body has to adapt really quickly to go, okay, that's messing up our body temperature. Now all of a sudden we're out sweating, and I'm not acclimated to that,
That's
and
right.
your homeostasis is freaking out. And so it's going to respond physically or sometimes emotionally with, how you can get angry.
Of course.
Like your hormones, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
that's right.
they call it, what is it? Hangry is a new word.
I've been that a few times, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to, though, again, talking about the original homeostasis studies, body temperature, blood pressure, water within your body, dehydration. When we think about it, though, we can include a lot of the other systems of the body, a lot of other processes. So you can talk about your heart rate, your blood sugar, your hormones, the amount of oxygen we consume, your electrolytes in relationship to that water, too. Even our balance and our posture, the way that we move.
Straight.
Yeah, that's right. Some of those things about homeostasis, it's really just about regulating, and it's about keeping steady. So when we talk about body weight, obviously it gets a little bit complicated, but when it comes down to it, it's, again, moderation. But we talk about, body weight. Let's think a little bit about that. How do we gain weight? We gain weight by eating too much. We gain weight by not being active enough. And so when we're thinking about diet fads and exercise fads, keep it real simple. What's our intake and what's our output?
Right.
So when it comes down to it, just keep it simple like that. When I tell people about maintaining equilibrium and homeostasis, it's like a car, it's like a bike. It's probably in your bike group that you had. They talked a little bit about maintaining your bike and taking care of your bike. Your body's no different. I mean, you take your car, get your oil change, you get your brakes worked on
consistently every 3,000 or 4,000 miles or whatever the new cars require.
That's right.
It's we get them in a homeostasis kind of thing, but we don't think about that consistency.
Yeah, if we were to treat our bodies the same way a lot of us, try to really effectively, take care of our cars and take care of our houses and take care of our things.
Our yards.
Yes, our things.
Our flowers.
That's right. Yeah, if we just had that focus on our body, it would really make a difference. But sometimes because it's our body, because it's us, we kind of put ourselves second and we kind of put everybody else first, or put our job first, or put our, whatever it may be first. But when it comes down to it, it's just about taking care of yourself first. So first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you got to think, what are my goals for the day? If you're somebody who's not as active as you need to be, that should be your goal. If you're somebody who doesn't eat breakfast, if you don't have a routine meal during the day, that should be your goal. But it's about finding where you're lacking that equilibrium, that lacking that moderation, and then adjusting for that.
And it takes time for your body to catch up with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I think our impatience is a real big deal when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, because that's why people jump on those fad diet bandwagons, because they promise so much weight so quickly. And I've done it too. There's no judgment here, folks, because I've tried everything. I'll struggle with weight my whole life. I understand. I've been on that side of the fence. I've tried it all. I've taken fat burners. You know, I mean, I've done it all. But what I know for a fact is the only thing that worked for me to lose 80 pounds and keep it off was a gradual start to just changing my lifestyle.
That's right.
You know, I think one of the first things that I did was give up soda.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, I started learning about nutrition. I got certified in nutrition, started realizing sugar and the impact that has on your life. And I'm like, I drink a lot of Mountain Dews. Right?
For me, it was Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
I'm right there with you.
And so I'm like, I'm gonna stop drinking this stuff. And then it was sweet tea, because then I realized, wait, there's just as much sugar in sweet tea.
If not more.
Especially my mama's sweet tea.
That's right.
You know, if not more, so I'm like, I'm not gonna drink sweet tea anymore. And you know, and you just gradually do that. And you start changing those behaviors. And then all of a sudden I realized you really should eat breakfast every morning. I learned that, you know, and I started going, okay, I'm going to eat breakfast every morning. And gradually, over about 3 to 4 years, I lost 80 pounds. And that was about 13 years ago. And I've kept it off. Because now I've changed those behaviors.
All the patients that I've worked with, I should say the vast majority of patients that I've worked with who needed to lose weight, who specifically tried to lose weight, it definitely was not one of those things where after 3 or 4 weeks they said, I've got this, it's under control. Sometimes it took longer than that even to kind of figure out what they were supposed to do. Sometimes having headaches, being nauseous, not being able to get out of bed, tired, moody. I mean, those things happen, but like you said, over 3-4 years' time, you can look back, years from now, looking back on where you were, and you can say, wow, I didn't even realize how badly I was doing. And then now you look at yourself and you say, wow, I'm really doing great. And so that's what you have to think about is, for those of you who are running and biking and trying to get active, now it's getting hot out and you're trying to get outside and you're trying to move, set goals for yourself. That's what I always come back to with physical therapy, is setting your own personal goals. So specific, exactly.
Start, like one thing, master one thing. We can even think about water, Danny.
That's right.
Water, because we think about homeostasis water. That's another thing that I think people do extreme. We go to drinking this much water every day, and then all of a sudden we read an article that says, or you hear me on Healthy You, that says, you should, if you want to lose weight, you really should get up to drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. And then you go from this to 96 ounces. And then how many women come to me and say, I can't drink that much water. I'm running to the bathroom all the time. I'm like, of course you are. Your body's freaking out.
That's right. Your body's probably gotten so used to the amount of salt that's in your system, the imbalance of electrolytes and hormones. A lot of things happen when you start to move and you start to eat healthy and you even start to get the proper amount of sleep. That's something I haven't even really talked about either when it comes to your body, is sleep. That's probably, of all things, the most common thing that people don't think about and they don't get is proper sleep pattern.
That is one of the number one things for your health.
It's with my people that I see a lot of times that are injured, that are trying to build muscle and build strength and recover. You can't recover if you don't have enough sleep. Everything is in balance. So just like with anything else, sleep is a factor as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that kind of preventative care, because I know that's really what you hope to do. As a physical therapist, you want to help people with preventative care. And that is so important when it comes to moderation. If you're going to, I fully believe that most people, I know there are exceptions to the rule. I understand there's always exceptions. But based on my experience with doing 4 years with My First 5K and seeing people and coaching, most people can train to run a 5K unless you have something extreme going on. Most people under the right conditions can train to run a 5K. But you got to do preventative care.
Oh, yes. No, if you're someone who's, I wouldn't say off the couch even necessarily, but if you're someone who's not as active that's trying to become active, you're going to have aches and pains. You're going to have problems. It's about learning about your body and knowing, where am I limited at? Is it my hamstrings? Is it my back? Am I weak? Am I, stiff? What I usually do is the first time I see a person and we set their goals and we talk about that, I check range of motion of different joints. I check strength of different joints. But not just that, I actually get up and watch them move. I watch them walk, squat, and just kind of be active. And so a lot of times it's about identifying where you're limited initially so that down the road, that's almost one of your strengths.
Right.
If you can get to the point where that actually becomes something, for a lot of us runners, it's weaker hips and IT band stiffness and knee pain. If we can get to the point where you're knowing what to do with that and using that to your advantage, then the sky's the limit, really.
Absolutely. And it's a perfect example because I have tight hamstrings. And so as long as I'm just running easy 4, 5, 6 miles, my body is acclimated to that and doesn't give me any problem.
Yeah.
But as soon as I bump it up, I start training for a half marathon.
Right.
What's the first thing that happens? Next thing you know, I got knee pain, back of my leg because my hamstring's super tight.
That's right.
You have to roll it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes ice certain areas, right? Go see your physical therapist, get stretched out really well, and do that on a regular basis until your body starts to acclimate and adjust to that. And then, you can do some stretches at home, on your own and continue to do that. But if you don't ice, if you don't stretch, if you aren't hydrated, all of those things that are preventative care, when you are becoming more active, you are going to be in pain.
That's right. And
that's a normal response.
And the dirty little secret that I have with a lot of the patients that I see, if you're not someone who's extremely in pain, extremely limited, a lot of times there could be just 3 or 4 different exercises that you can do on a daily basis. It may not be something that will prevent you forever from needing to go see your doctor, your physical therapist, but a lot of times I'll just see people that will come and ask me, they'll say, hey, can you give me a little screen and tell me where I'm having problems at, where I should focus on, because I'm not moving like I should. I don't feel comfortable like I should.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we'll send people home with a free screen and we'll tell them, hey, do this stretch, do this exercise, and come back and see me if you have problems. They might call me a week later and say, oh my God, I feel great. I can't believe this.
It is really amazing. And you were speaking, and as you were speaking, my brain was working because I'm thinking, are we to the point now where people can just come get physical therapy without a doctor's?
So this is in the state of Illinois. We don't have that ability yet. We have what's basically called direct access in other states. So in some states, you can go directly to your physical therapist.
You should be able to.
That's something that we hope is coming in the next couple of years. Illinois, with most things, is a little bit stingy when it comes to.
Let's go, Illinois.
Yeah, when it comes to certain things. So,
I know.
But yeah, right now, what you would need in the state of Illinois, go in and see your doctor. Tell them you want to see your physical therapist. They can write you a referral at any time. However, something that we actually do, like I mentioned, is a free injury screen. So it would be just 10 or 15 minutes. It would be where I identify, hey, these muscles are stiff, these muscles are strong, maybe these muscles need a little bit of focus. And once we identify that, we give someone just a quick recommendation. We don't necessarily put our hands on them and do what I would call my manual therapy. Often a real big component of my care is to put my hands on patients. But a lot of times,
like stretching out their hamstrings.
Exactly.
Because
massaging.
I see you guys sit, you're right on my way home.
That's right, yeah.
And you're right on War Memorial as I'm going home, and I'm like, I wonder if you can just kind of go by there and get your hamstring stretched, or
exactly.
Well,
at the bare minimum, we could at least say, hey, do it this way, do it a certain other way. Maybe you've tried a stretch, and we say, well, let's give you a second recommendation, let's give you a third, and then basically.
But if I let my doctor know I have a tight hamstring and I really would like to see a physical therapist to learn some stretches and to be stretched out and learn how to do those stretches at home, they would write me a referral.
Absolutely. Your doctor may want to see you and kind of get an idea of what you're looking for, but I work with doctors a lot who just say, hey, let me know. I have patients who want to do physical therapy. As long as they just give me a call and say, hey, I'd like to go see Danny at ATI, most doctors are more than happy to write a referral
especially
for
if you're
that.
doing, hopefully if you're doing preventative care.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They should want you to do that. And then would my insurance for the most part cover that maybe?
Yeah, and we work with most insurances too.
Okay.
We try to be flexible with most insurance plans. So I think the big thing that most people think about physical therapy, it's for someone who is extremely limited, who's having a ton, surgery and a ton of problems.
I'm learning that there's so much more, especially just after races now, you'll see physical therapists out there and they'll be, just stretching. And I'm like, man, honey, it's almost like a massage therapist. Obviously, you guys are way more educated
There's
than
components
massage
of that,
therapy. But to be able to have a physical therapist, a regular physical therapist, where you could go every so often, especially if you're doing extreme sports like running a marathon. It's kind of like going to see a chiropractor, right?
It is. There's been many components of that, chiropractors and how they treat patients, and physical therapists, how we treat patients, and they overlap quite a bit. I'd say the biggest thing with physical therapists is we're always looking at function and how physically we function, how we move, how we're disabled functionally too. So where we need to correct our patterns, where we need to decrease use of certain areas and increase use of other areas.
And you guys are basically doctors. I mean, you got a 6-year degree, right? It's
so I went to U of I for 4 years, and then Bradley here locally for 3 years. That was a doctorate program at Bradley, which I like to say, I'm sure that everyone at Bradley would agree, it's one of the best programs around.
Yeah, I know
So we're pretty proud of that.
I have a few friends that have graduated from there.
Yeah, we love it there.
Yeah. So yeah, you're a doctor of physical therapy.
And we often work hand in hand. We communicate with doctors, and sometimes we'll say, hey, doc, let me give you a tip. Or other way around, doctor might have a few tips for us based on their experience with the patient. So it's really nice to be able to work with doctors who are open to dialogue. So, I see patients who are former. I had one recently who's a former, college track athlete. So just a perfect example. He's younger than I am, and he's help me with my hip a little bit, my leg. My back's a little off.
Right.
I've got another person who's a worker trying to get back to work. They blew their back out. They've got nerve issues. I've got another person who's 85 years old. So it's not everybody built the same. You're going to have whoever you are, whether your goal is getting back to work, getting off the couch, or just walking longer, you're going to have a little bit of assistance that's needed along the way. So one thing that, I talked about sleep, but when we talk about weight, that's something that most people think, oh, I'm a little heavier, I'm going to struggle because, there's more weight on me.
Sure.
Think about this. When you people are out there walking, biking, getting your routine started, if you lose 1 pound, that's 4 pounds off your joints. I know I talked about this a little bit before. So let's say you lose 10 pounds total in your first, month. You've lost 40 pounds off your joints, basically. It's always times 4.
Really?
Off your legs and your back. Now, let's say you were bent over. If you're someone who is always bending and lifting and squatting, that could be 7 to 10 times that amount. So if you're somebody who's doing a lot of, weight training and things like that, if you're doing squatting, lunging, you could lose 10 pounds. You could lose 70 to 100 pounds off of your joints.
See there?
Yeah.
10 pounds could really 70 pounds.
Right. So when you're setting your goals, that's important. That's why we set short-term goals.
Yeah.
Because maybe a month from now, you're going to say, oh, wow, I'm already way past that goal. I got to set another goal for myself. It's just remotivating yourself, setting another goal and saying, all right, the next 10 pounds, or maybe I want to go X amount of miles. It's just important to change it up a little bit. Don't think that you have to lose 50 pounds today.
You don't, because the chances are you'll gain it back, and that's no fun. That mentally messes you up.
It seems impossible, and it gets you out of that routine. It gets you out of that equilibrium, so you lose that homeostasis. And when it comes to the body too, obviously an increased BMI, an increased weight is hard on the body. But what's harder on the body is not moving. So if you are someone who goes and exercises 1 time a week, you're not going to see that response. If you're somebody who
you're probably going to get a negative response.
That's right. That's right.
Not to interrupt you,
no,
because
absolutely.
you've got great information, and we absolutely agree on this whole moderation and homeostasis thing.
Right.
But if you're only exercising 1 day a week and you're in pain, that's why.
They've shown in physical therapy, if you're not coming at least 2 times a week, you're not going to get any improvement. You might maintain at most, but you're not going to improve.
And you could be getting a negative response because your body is freaking out. You're every time you go work out, it's like, whoa, the other 6 days, we haven't been doing anything. So your body's going to respond to that.
Absolutely. It's called, there's a negative feedback loop. That's a term that we use with homeostasis. Sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes that can be a bad thing. The negative feedback loop basically means that if something stressful happens, it could be you're exercising in a hotter temperature, your body temperature is coming up. Of course, we have to sweat. We have to produce our different glands of our body. Our different systems have to respond to that. Now, of course, if we're going to the extremes, our body can't really recover. So again, if you're somebody going once a week, if you're trying to go run 6-7 miles, forget about it. Your body can't recover to that negative input. So it's about taking it to your limits and then backing down, and then maybe the next week taking a little bit more and backing off. You'll get to the point where maybe you'll exceed what you can do, and then at that point, if you do, come and see me. The most important thing is that you don't give up, and I'm sure that's something that you tell all your clients too, that you see is the most important thing is to just go and do it. 90% of it is just showing up and trying. And
don't give up. If something's not working for you, try something else.
That's right.
There's so many options out there, but there's one thing that I know. And I say this all the time. None of us are convicted to a life sentence of being unhealthy.
Oh, of course.
Now, bad things happen to healthy people. There are diseases that are brought about that we don't, that from pollution and from food that we've consumed and all these artificial things. Now, obviously, things are going to happen to healthy people. Our risks are a lot lower. But you are not convicted to a life of being overweight.
Yeah, that's right.
You just need to start today doing something and moderate.
That's right.
Take a first step.
Absolutely.
A baby step, right? Find someone that can help you get on the right track. Someone like Danny
And yeah, that's not to say, physical therapy is good for many, but maybe you have to find a dietitian. Maybe you have to even find a psychologist to keep you motivated. You'd be amazed at just someone who's really in good shape, someone who just needs a little bit of push. If you can find a coach, if you can find an assistant to help you along your way, that's what's important.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks,
the
guys.
fast half hour. They're good when the half hour just flies by. Any of you been tuning in? Thanks so much. We really appreciate you viewing. You can share this with any friends that you think need to hear it. We appreciate that as well. And yeah, that's good information.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. I learned the negative loop.
Negative feedback loop. If you're interested at home, a negative feedback loop would be the term that we use for homeostasis. So.
Okay, I've not heard that before. Negative feedback loop. So that's just your body responding.
Just responding to a stress, to a stressor.
Stress,
Yep.
and a stress is anything that you are putting on your body that is not used to
Absolutely.
or accustomed to.
Absolutely. Exercise, maybe honestly for some people this sounds a little extreme, but if you look at the, hot dog eating champions, something like that, that's training your body. Those guys really do train. They just watch them and they sit there and they eat. They're putting a negative stress on their body, and their body over time adjusts to that. Just like anything, kind of gross, but that's kind of the way it works.
I know. I just cannot even imagine that you would be so motivated to be the hot dog eating champion. I'm like, what is that?
That's right.
Hot dogs are so bad for you. There is nothing good in a hot dog. Sorry, Oscar Mayer. I don't think we're alive anymore. Maybe.
Everybody wants to be good at something. So I guess that's what they choose.
That's
for some it's video games. For some it's that. Yeah, it's to each their own, I suppose.
Oh, I just can't even imagine. There are foods that I used to eat that I think now, like, oh my gosh.
That's right.
I mean, there was a time that I probably ate 3 Big Macs a week.
I know some of those people still. I know some who go and get multiple Big Macs in a day.
Not 3 at one time. I wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But
it's easy.
at least
it's
3
easy.
Big Macs a week with super fries, supersized Mountain Dew. That was my life. That's at that point in my life, I hate to use the word I didn't know better because as I said before, I think there's always something in the back of your mind that you do know better, but you pretend like you don't.
But with sugar and everything else, it almost becomes an addiction too, without realizing it.
But I knew it wasn't the best food I could eat, but I truly did not understand the full consequences of what was happening. I didn't understand trans fats. I didn't understand that hydrogenated oil goes in and doesn't come out. The things that I now know, I didn't know then. So it was under a situation where, but you have to change those behaviors. I used to eat a bowl of cereal every single night.
Oh yeah.
That's sugar. There's a lot. You know how many people have that bad habit?
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest habits for me.
YourRealLife.com.
That was